Good evening, voters. In a few villages in Madhya Pradesh, there has been a pilot project that has been carried out over the past several years. In fact, in 2017, we are told it was even recognized by the World Economic Forum as a successful pilot project. Now, what was this project that Madhya Pradesh tested with? They decided to give a basic income to everyone in a few villages, many of which were tribal villages, which meant about 200 rupees to 300 rupees to each adult every month, about 150 rupees to each child every month. There was no other condition, there were no other criteria. All that you needed was a bank account so that the government could directly transfer the income into your bank account. It was paid to everyone, rich, poor, old, young. There was no other categorization at all. So the point of the matter is that there was one small project that was done, and many say it did work in that small area. Right now, what we are seeing ever since then is one or the other version of a universal basic income or a monthly income for some people is being experimented with in various parts of our country. So tonight, as more and more reports emerge suggesting that Modi government may be mulling a form of universal basic income or a fixed income for all, let us debate what system will work the best in our Indian setup. Can it replace all the subsidy schemes, hundreds of subsidies that we have in our country right now? Should it be truly universal, barring maybe the top 25% income bracket? Or should it first start with people who perhaps need it the most? Should it be restricted to the farmers? Should it be restricted to the poorest of the poor? Reports suggest all kinds of permutation and combination. So I'm going to put it all there and see what our experts think. Is this better, for example, than regular farm loan waivers that our governments resort to each election season? Those are some of the questions we will ask tonight. But first, this report.
Sikkim could be the first state to implement Universal Basic Income Scheme, also called by some as free money. The Pawan Chamling-led Sikkim Democratic Front government has said that UBI will be a part of its election manifesto for 2019 assembly elections. The Sikkim government claims that it has, however, started the process to undertake direct cash transfer. The Economic Survey 2016-17 advocated the concept of universal basic income as an alternative to various social welfare schemes to reduce poverty. It spoke of a scheme that would enable direct cash transfer to accounts of citizens. The top 25% income brackets could be excluded from the scheme. The survey said that this would fix subsidy leaks and misallocation of resources. A bank account, a unique ID and mobile phone is all that would be needed, with the cost of scheme proposed to be shared by centre and states. The scheme is also said to be an alternative to other social welfare schemes.
This year he's put an idea on the table. Should all these subsidies being given by the centre and the state not be clubbed together and converted into X percentage of families in India getting a minimum salary every month from the government? Now the amounts will tally. The only difficulty that I see, and I've discussed it at length with the Chief Economic Advisor, is Indian politics ready to substitute the present lot of subsidy regime with an alternative? I certainly feel the alternative is better, but the alternative cannot be in addition.
A form of such a universal income has been implemented by Raithu Bandhu in Telangana, which provides monetary grant to farmers during all seasons of crops. Many say the scheme for the farmers helped TRS sweep in recent polls. So tonight we ask, is India ready for an income for all scheme? Does the scheme really make sense for India? Let's debate.
Let's say good evening to our panelists. Aman Agarwal, Director for the Indian Institute of Finance, Avik Saha, Convener of the Jai Kisan Andolan, the Farmers Wing of Swaraj Abhiyan, Raman Malik, spokesperson for the BJP, Sadanand Dhume, Resident Fellow at the American Enterprise Institute, a known economist, Khalikur Rahman, Senior Leader of the TRS. Let's quickly go across the panel once, gentlemen, and get some opening remarks on where you stand on this debate and what you think, if you do back such a scheme, should be the basic structure, and then we will get into multiple aspects and nuances of it. So let me start with Khalikur Rahman, because TRS has a version of it primarily for the farmers of Telangana, and not all farmers, mostly landowners, as I understand. Can you give us a sense of what the basic idea was and how has it worked for your state?
See, it in fact is a very unique idea of our Honorable Chief Minister Shri K. Chandrasekhar Rao Sahab. After he came into power, that is after he formed the government in 2014, and then you know, because there was the loan waiver which was done, but then loan waiver was not just only the answer to the miseries and the problems of the farmers. So then our Honorable Chief Minister came up with an idea of a scheme called Raitu Bandhu, wherein rupees 4,000 per acre is directly transferred to the farmer account, or a check is given to the farmer per crop, and this is the financial investment support scheme to the farmer. And through this, the farmers which were earlier, you know, borrowing at a very high interest from the private lenders have been relieved, and now this is really helped them to a greater extent. And now what India is in fact planning to implement tomorrow, this is what has been implemented today in the state of Telangana. And by this, you know, nearly about 6 million farmers have been benefited here, and the government of Telangana has allocated a budget of about 12,000 crores out of especially for this. And the first crop, because especially in Telangana, there are about 2 crops every year.
Yes.
That is called the Rabi and the Kharif. And for a Rabi crop, 4,000 rupees per acre. And for a Kharif crop, 4,000 rupees per acre. That is, in 1 year, a farmer would get about 8,000 rupees per acre. And likewise, now in the election, in fact, we have you know, promised that we would increase this amount from rupees 4,000 to rupees 5,000. So now from this financial year onwards, the farmers would be getting rupees 10,000 per acre per year. That is 5,000 per crop. So this way, in fact, I think this is the best policy which, you know, the states like Jharkhand, the states like Odisha, the states like West Bengal, you know, have already copied this and emulated this from the Telangana. And even, you know, our Honorable Chief Minister has also announced that this scheme would be implemented in India.
Well, we are given to understand, Mr. Rahman, yes, that the central government is looking at various options. Many of the reports suggest maybe to begin with it could be just for farmers, because obviously now finally the government recognizes that there is a grave farm crisis staring at our country, and just a few small steps is not going to be enough. So a lot more has to be done. In fact, like you were saying, Odisha has also started a scheme called the Kalia scheme, which is the short for Krushak Assistance for Livelihood and Income Augmentation, where they gave a financial aid of 25,000 per farm family. So different states are looking at different models. Let me bring in our other panelists and let me ask Sadanand that question. Sadanand, many Western countries for different reasons, though.
Before that,
Mr. Raman, I'll come back to you. Let me just go across the panel and get everybody's opening comments, and then I will come back to you, sir. This is not just a one-answer debate.
A very extensive exercise of cleaning up the land records, regularizing all the land records. Yeah.
Okay, all right, point taken. Sadanand, your opening views, do you think this is something that we should seriously look at, and should we limit it to farmers to begin with, or poorest of poor, or should it genuinely be a universal basic income?
Well, these are very interesting and very important questions, Tanvi, and I'm glad that you're doing a show on this. At the outset, I just want to clarify that the term UBI, or Universal Basic Income, is kind of a catch-all, right? And it means many different things, right? So in the West, for instance, the argument has really been about, well, should everybody get a check? Should every person be given a certain amount of income regardless of whether they're working or not? What we've been discussing, at least in the early stages of your program, has been something much more specific, which is basically programs that are targeted at farmers. And I think the general view on that, if that's what we want to discuss this evening, is that it is certainly superior to the other alternative that has been touted, which is loan waivers. So if you have a choice between some kind of income support and loan waivers, I would say the income support is better. But even here, I think the thing that is worrying, as with all things that are propounded by politicians, is that they're very quick to glom on to all the benefits, but they're very slow to talk about how these things are going to be paid for and who is going to pay for them. So, I don't want to prejudge what the government is going to do. If in general it is something closer to Raitu Bandhu, I think there are some economic arguments for it. If what you're talking about is a universal basic income in the Western sense, yes, I think that would be a catastrophic idea for India, and I hope nobody is considering that.
Yes, because I don't think we can afford it at all for everybody. In fact, even if you see countries in the West, Europe, in Switzerland and Finland, where they had it, they've decided to scrap it. So that form may not work for India. But Mr. Raman Agarwal, what is your view? What kind of universal basic income scheme can work for India? One that just does away with all the subsidies that the people are using today?
You see, you raised a very pertinent question. First of all, it's from 16th century, the universal basic scheme policy framework has been coming into play century after century without it being implemented since then. There is not a single country which has adopted it in its basic sense, or what it was proposed was to raise the level of income of people, to provide them a social security net to net, so that their livelihood, their poverty, the people on the lower levels could comfortably survive the hardships of an economic issue or a terrain. However, you see, there have been different forms of it, and even in India we have seen different forms of it. Ayushman Bharat is one, Manrega is another, direct cash scheme is another. The one which was just talked about in Telangana is also there. So there have been different forms of it, and the important question here is, can the government withdraw some of these schemes? Because when you're trying to introduce a UBI, even in the US in 2016, when it was proposed by Chief Economic Advisor here, even in the US they said they would like to propose a $13,000 UBI scheme to be there in the US to be given to the poor people. But then that was not taken forward. President Nixon did it when he was present to introduce, but it was not taken forward. Please understand, even a rich country which has largest amount of resources, huge amount of deposits, even they have not been able to introduce it. And to think about removing some of the subsidies, whether it is for farm, whether it is for medicine, in a country like a developing country like India, once a subsidy is given, it is very difficult to take it back. To take a reverse step is very difficult. Imagine for farm loan waivers itself, which you mentioned about 1.5 lakh crore farm loan waivers are being given every year after year by different governments, taken together from all states together for the last couple of years. Now this government has taken a step not to give that kind of a farm waiver this year, and you can see the roar which is happening around the country, because farm waiver is seen as a mandatory requirement, that if I have taken a loan, it is bound to be waived off. And that is what the meaning has come to be, and it should be considered as a donation as against a waive or a loan which is being given. I think the thing here is a country like India, or any country as a matter of fact, can they withdraw a scheme like this. It is not a tax. It is not something which people have to pay, like we happened in case of GST, where tax is to be paid here, and so we could remove large number of taxes and introduce a new system. Here you're talking of removing all kinds of subsidies,
yes,
whether it is a direct scheme which was there for gas and food. You're talking of Ayushman Bharat, which has been introduced. Is India ready to do that? No. Do we have the framework? Yes. With the Aadhaar coming into picture, United States of America really introduced the social security system, social security number. UK, Europe has it. In India, we have also introduced the Aadhaar, which has been able to proliferate into this country to a great extent. Now, we can certainly go into the system and start giving this benefit, but can we withdraw the other? Like the finance minister said, if it is a question of exchange, yes, certainly we can look at it, and there could be mathematics which equates it. But if you are looking at it as an additional factor, then it's going to be a curse for this country, because where is this money going to come from? Ultimately, it will be the exchequer paying out of the pocket of the people who are paying taxes genuinely for years.
Just very quickly ask the entire panel. I think we're all going to be on the same page that you can't have a basic income over and above the subsidies. Is there anybody who disagrees that you will have to give subsidy plus income? I think that's a given, because that's a completely impossible scenario. Can we ensure that the subsidies get subsumed into this income, or will some of them have to be withdrawn, is the larger point. Avik Saha, for obviously what version of universal basic income do you think is the most suitable right now for our country? Only for the farmers, only for the poorest of poor, or for all? Sadanand, I see you. I'll come back to you in just a bit, and then you can make your point. Let me just get Avik's opening comments.
As I see it, the present government at the center is looking at an income scheme targeting the farmers. If I just focus on that, let me tell you one thing, that the farmers in India are asking for a guaranteed income based on remunerative prices. They are not asking for a universal dole. And where does the word basic come from? I mean, what is basic anyway? If you look at the Raitu Bandhu scheme, for a farmer who owns 1 hectare of land in Telangana, the income has gone up by 1,500 rupees per month. Is this really going to make that farmer economically viable? Absolutely not. So this is a dole scheme which is being touted as a savior scheme. And it's absolutely wrong to mix up the loan waiver with this income, because the loans have accumulated, and in any case, the farming sector has the lowest NPA. It's the other industrial sectors which have very large NPAs, for which banks are taking haircuts all the time. So the farming sector's loans have accumulated because of the poor prices that have been given to the farmers. So unless those loans are removed, the farmers can't start on a clean slate, even with the universal basic income, if that should come. So please do not mix up loan waiver with income. Income has to be income which is honorable. Universal basic income, as proposed in Telangana, is just an arm, and it does not make a difference to any farmer's life anywhere in India.
Mr. Rahman, do you want to respond to that, since he's directly speaking about your government scheme?
Yeah, I'd like to. No, I'd like to, because I beg to differ, because here, especially in the state of Telangana, about 6 million farmers have been benefited. And every farmer, because we have personally, gone to the farmers, we have met them, and every farmer is really happy. And because the farmers earlier used to live under distress always, especially because of the, loans, what they used to have at a very high rate of interest. And moreover, because the loan waiver, in fact, would also promote the bad credit culture. So now the direct transfer, that is the Raitu Bandhu scheme, the government of Telangana, what we are implementing here, and we have implemented this scheme very successfully, and wherein the farmers have not just been benefited, but they are also very happy. And now, especially because with the further increase of rupees 1,000, it is going to really help the farmers. So I personally feel that the Raitu Bandhu scheme is the best scheme which the government of Telangana is implementing, and which the other 3 states have already followed, and the government of India also.
can you tell me how will you fund it? Because the point I was actually making in by comparing it
can
to
the
farm
Telangana
loan
government
waivers,
tell us how much income the Telangana farmers are getting from this scheme? How much are they getting every month?
From the budget.
Give us that figure. Don't tell us how many farmers,
from the
how
budget
many
we have
crores.
allocated.
How much is the income of the farmer? How much, by how much has it
to
gone
fund
up?
this scheme?
so how much
How
money
much
is going?
is a farming family getting extra per month? It's a very simple question. Do you have figures for that? You do. But if you say that, you will prove that your scheme cannot make farmers happy.
The farmer has become very prosperous and his income has gone up. In fact, by about 15 to 20%.
Farmers have become prosperous. I do not know which wonderland you're coming from. Please tell the audience how much income a farming family is getting extra per month from your Raitu Bandhu scheme. It's a simple question. You must be having the figures.
See,
per family, per month, how much?
Yes, we have the figure. The income has gone up by 15 to 20% per family per
Tell the
farmer.
nation how much.
And that is very much visible because
Please tell us in rupee, naya, paisa, how much?
If you look at it, it has come down because there are no farmer suicides. So
you are giving money. So please tell us how much in terms of money. Don't tell us percentage.
Okay, let me ask the same this in another way. Mr. Khaliqur Rahman, can you tell us?
Average monthly income is 6,500.
Yes.
Can you
15 to 20% means it has gone up by 2,000 rupees per month. That's exactly what I said.
So let us look at the
that will cause happiness.
Today the farmer. Hello.
Yes, Mr. Rahman, let's not talk about generics of how they have become prosperous. If you have statistics to give us how much more money is going in their hands, then give us that statistic. Or just tell us how are you going to fund it. Tell me how much money will you need annually to give this money to your farmers and where is it coming from. I am sitting here and staring at numbers that show me that you need almost 5 times the more amount of money had you otherwise given a farm loan waiver. Yes, tell me.
No. I think that is where you are confused because here I'll tell you, because if you are talking about the farm loan waiver, it was going to cost about 17,000 crores. But now especially after that also farmers always used to live under distress and they always used to be worried and there was no prosperity, there was no further income generation for the farmer. But now after the introduction of the Raitu Bandhu scheme, the government of Telangana has allocated a budget of rupees 12,000 crores from the budget, and rupees 8,000 per acre are being given to the farmer, and from this financial year onwards it is going to be increased. So now just simply to say that it is not really going to help the farmer, I think you should come and do the case study, because if it was
let me also point taken for now. Let us move on.
Faye, just give me 1 second.
Yes, Mr. Saha, can you just wait for 2 minutes, because I haven't gone to Raman Malik yet.
Just 1 second.
For his opening comments.
And the present election results.
No, election results may or may not necessarily be because of this reason, Mr. Khaliqur Rahman. Let's not go there.
Election results have nothing to do with farmers' happiness, please.
No, definitely, because the farmers have voted. The farmers have voted en masse in our favor, mainly because they are reaping.
Mr. Raman Malik, good evening to you. We've been grilling the TRS right now about their version of the basic income plan. What is it that within the BJP is the thought process? What kind of scheme would work for India? I know you can't tell us what the government is working on, so I'm not going to waste time asking you that. But obviously there have been a lot of conversations even before today. In 2017, there was a big debate about universal basic income. Should it just be for the farmer? Should it be for all poor people?
See, anyway, couple of things. Obviously, as you correctly said, it would not be appropriate, neither it is correct on my part to talk about anything what the government is doing as of right now till the time the government announces. But yes, couple of things I would like to bring to your notice. When we start talking about let's say, the initial starting of the Prime Minister, he had very categorically said he's committed to the poor. And let's see what has he done till today. Rather than, people shouting, I would just like to say certain things so that they can assess, even the viewers can assess. So, interest deposits directly to the account, accidental insurance, health insurance, now Ayushman, then the Jan Dhan accounts, the Mudra loan, the debit cards so that they could do things properly and nobody can take away the thing, overdraft facilities which we have given. And there are various other schemes which are there. I've just named a few. Now, why I named these things is this is a systematic process in which we are giving strength, financial strength and care and the state patronage to poor so that they could get reasonable standards of life. If you look at it over and all, if you look at it on the basis of what this government has done, it clearly shows the way we are bringing housing for all, the way we are...
Mr. Malik, just explain to me one thing. In your own opinion, obviously not what the government is thinking, but in your view, in the party's view, should you take away all the subsidies that you're providing to the citizens today and instead subsume that in one basic income that comes monthly in my bank account?
I can give you my view,
whether
Tanvi.
it's LPG, whether it's health insurance, whether it's crop insurance, take it all away, put it into one group and give 2,500 rupees in my bank account. Is that the thought process?
Tanvi, I'll explain. I can give you my view. I would not be able to give you any official view on this, but I can give you a broader view of what a lot of intellectuals that I've spoken about this issue with, or other people who are directly and indirectly involved with the thinking processes in the intelligentsia of this political spectrum of India. I've spoken to a lot of people, and this is what I've got to understand, that mostly countries do not have standard deduction in their income tax. We have a system of standard deduction which is expected to grow every now and then from every budget. Then we have all these schemes which have of late been announced. Then you are also going ahead with subsidized plan for, let's say in Haryana, there has been a subsidized plan for dialysis and ultrasound and things like that. So all those benefit schemes are already on, and it's a big net of subsidies which has been given to poor and are being further given. Now, if you start dismantling this net, it would have a catastrophe effect. But yes, there are certain sections in this country where, let's say, a perpetual, let's say a section of farmers who face drought continuously with data proving that they need some kind of assistance. That is something very understandable. There are certain sections of workers, let's say laborers or BPL family, which need certain assistance. That is understandable. So now, the most important factor is the resources are limited. There is a big number of people who need help. How best you can bring help to them? So it has to be, because we have 135 odd crore people estimated in this country, out of which there would be a lot of BPL people, there would be poor people, there will be below the creamy layer people. And you have to address to the requirement.
So from what you are saying, let me take that point further across to Mr. Dhume. Mr. Dhume, I am also going to quote from what the Economic Survey in 2016-2017 said, and it's largely what Raman Malik is also alluding to. There are 950 central sector and centrally sponsored sub-schemes in our country. That's about 5% of our GDP. The top 11 schemes of these, which is the 50% of the budgetary allocation, are largely the PDS food subsidy scheme, urea subsidy, whatever subsidies go under Manrega, and so on and so forth. Is there where we hit a wall that nobody thinks it's practical to withdraw these subsidies and replace it with a basic income, which is why it will not really happen in our country. And let's just give one kind of an investment support to the farmers instead.
You're absolutely right. We not only do we hit a wall, but we hit a wall traveling at 200 kilometers per hour. I mean, I think that this debate so far really, it sums up the problems that India is going to face as it goes down the road. First of all, you have the politicians who can only think in terms of what they are giving. They can't think in terms of how it will be paid for. Then you have the activists who only think in terms of how much more it should be given, and no matter how much you give, it's not enough. Let's raise it more and more and more. And you have to ask yourself, right? I mean, the United States has a per capita income of $60,000. It has not introduced any kind of UBI. Switzerland has a per capita income of $75,000 a year. They haven't instituted UBI. The other thing is that in the reality of India is, as you said and Mr. Agarwal said, no subsidy gets withdrawn. So this whole argument that we're going to replace things and we're going to make it more efficient, which is put forward by economists, simply is not true if you look at how politics in India works. And the third point, which no one over here has raised, is that, no one talks about the morally corrosive effects of giving people money essentially to sit on their hands. The fact is that work is not something that can be defined purely in economic terms. There's great social value. People derive meaning from it. And I think this idea that you can just deal with the fact that India has far too many people in agriculture who are unproductive by, essentially giving everybody a check, it's really putting just a Band-Aid on a gaping wound. And my worry is that we're going to get to a situation where, one party says that, okay, now I'm going to do 4,000. And then the next party says, well, I'll give you 6,000. And then the third person comes around and says, I'll give you 8,000. And none of these people are going to turn around and be honest with the taxpayer or be honest with the voter and say, who is going to pay for all this?
There's one more fear to it, Tanvi.
Yes, Mr.
Which
Malik.
I, as an individual, think that the fear of a whole race becoming unproductive and dependent. We have, a beautiful system of entrepreneurship which has been cultivated in the last couple of years. If you see, we have around 10 to 11 crore people or more than that who have taken mudra loans to start up their own work. Now, they must be averagely taking in another 1% to help them around, whether it is from their family or outside. So there are almost, after this entrepreneurship drive, there are almost 20 crore people effectively into some or the other work. Now, what does this concept do? And this is my own opinion. The concept, what it does is, it gives me a basic cushion. But then when I start looking into it, my basic cushion is already given by various subsidy, whether it is medicines, whether it is health, some sort of health care by Ayushman.
So that's what I'm saying.
And
so that's what I'm saying. Take it all away. You fix the leakages, you get rid of the leakages, you get rid of the inefficiencies of the system, and just directly transfer the money to the people who need it. Let them decide what they have to do. That's one side of it. Mr. Agarwal wanted to make a point, and then I have a couple of questions for Abhi.
I'll tell you why I'm saying.
I'll come back to you. Aman Agarwal has been waiting for a while, so let him make his point, please, and I'll come back to you, Raman Malik. Yes.
Three quick points here. Firstly, even in Telangana, they have not removed the subsidies. They have given this as an additional benefit, which is more of an election campaign benefit to the people to lure them, firstly. Secondly, please understand the fact that any subsidy given any part of the world, whether developed or developing, it is almost impossible to withdraw because a subsidy is given to one of the weakest section of a society, and that's where the subsidy counts, and to withdraw that would become a crime which takes place. Thirdly, the question is, where do you fund it? There is no mechanism to go about fund. The problem with Indian agriculture is not, they are not looking at subsidies, they are not looking at donations, they are looking at empowerment. If we are not able to empower them and give them the right price, you see, the right price is not only the MSP. The issue is that if you look at, there have been a huge debate for the last 15-20 years that a farmer produces X produce, sells it for an X price, when it goes to the market, it is going for a 10X price. So if it is 10 rupees, it goes and sells in the market for 80, 90, 100, 200 rupees. Where is this between the middleman eating away the price is coming from. Now, the government has tried to create some mandis, but it is still not there. We propose as an institution something called mobile mandis and mandis on the wheel, but even that is not implemented. But the thing is, if we are able to empower the farmer is not looking at freebies. It's not a world of freebies. It's a question of empowerment. That will make him happy. That is what is going to make him grow up, look up to himself, and make him proud feel. India is a country of farming. I salute, and fortunately this economic survey which came out last year did give that flair of the Kisan. After almost 5 or 6 decades, the government had almost forgotten about Kisans. Fortunately, yes, this economic survey last year did give that flavor at least. But still, they did not talk about how are they going to empower him? How are they going to get him the right price? The problem of a farmer is that he is unable to, the road networks are not proper. He is unable to get his produce to the right place where the mandi is, where he can sell. We have making mobile technology. We have other. When we have linked up mobile mandis, why can't the farmer send a message that I have so much of produce, and whichever mandi is nearby who wants to pick it up can actually send the vehicle and pick that produce up. It saves him the cost, reduces the cost of production. But what is wrong? The large zamindars or the large mandi managers or the group mafia which is there in the agriculture
I'm sure you will
doesn't
agree
want
with
that
me
to happen because their fly goes away.
I'm sure you will agree with me. 5 years ago, I was having the same debate. 5 years ago, and maybe also 10 years ago, others were having the same debate, and the same solutions were being given to solve the farm problem. We still haven't managed to do it. Everybody knows that there is a problem with the price that they're getting. Everybody knows that there is a mandi man and a middleman who's eating up all of the money that the farmers should be getting. This government promised us a better supply chain management system, a better farm to fork system that would do away with all these problems. Only last year is when they finally started to look into it and at least deliver on some of those promises. So the fact of the matter is, once the selection season is done, maybe even that will go. So then, Avik Saha, why not have a situation where some amount of money is being given in the farmer's hand, and he's being, so he doesn't have to go seeking for debts. One minute, Mr. Malik, let me ask my question first. Mr. Malik, let me ask my question first.
Just answer this also, that if you keep on increasing the BSP, how are you going to manage the inflation? You have to
so you rather have no, that is for you to resolve, because there is an entire middleman chain that you guys haven't been able to fix. And Mira now has repeatedly done this whole farm to city price story that breaks down this inflation argument, because you've not been able to fix the middle problem. Firstly, the inflation right now is also at 2.3% as of today, so I don't think that's what we need to be discussing. My question is, Mr. Avik Saha, that isn't it better that the farmers have the money right when there is sowing season, so they don't have to go around begging for money, taking money on high interest, and getting stuck in that perennial cycle of debt, and they go about at least their farming season, and then we start addressing what amount they get for their produce on the other end. What is wrong in this system?
I'm not saying that the farmer should not get money to the scheme. All I said was that this is grossly insufficient.
Yes.
Under the Telangana scheme, even at 5,000 rupees per acre, the farmer is getting 20,000 per year. But the input cost for one season per acre is 30 to 35,000 rupees. So this is a very small solution to a very large problem. And to tout this as the be-all and end-all of all farmers' problems is what I'm objecting to.
Okay.
And I'm saying that this is going to become an electoral tool in the hands of politicians. It will be a lazy solution. No politician after this will have the incentive of looking at a long-term economic solution, as one of your panelists correctly said. What will happen is, then there will be competitive bidding on who can give more alms and donations.
Yes.
That's not a solution to the agrarian crisis. It's a very large structural problem. Yes, this is something that needed to be done on the immediate term, and it has been done. But we can't stop here, and we can't turn the wrong way and say that universal basic income, and I strongly object to the word basic, is the solution. We need to ensure farmers have incomes at least at the level of Group D staff of central government and state government employees, which is 18,000. By the current schemes, it's coming to less than 10,000 rupees a month. A family of 5 living on less than 10,000 rupees a month Is it possible?
Mr. Saab,
And
who
remember,
pays for
the
this?
National Food Security Scheme, which is
this?
for the people who are considered so poor that they can't afford the most basic thing, that is
Yes.
food. It covers 75% of the rural area and 50% of the urban area. So it is this population you're talking about. You are throwing some money at them, but I think this is just crumbs.
Well, Mr. Dhume has a question for you,
The
Avik
government
Saha.
is not a cashier.
Sadanand Dhume, do you want to go ahead?
From this table to that
Yeah, I
table.
mean, like,
The
just
government
very
has a
simple.
large
I mean,
social
like,
duty.
we would all love the idea, and I mean, who can disagree with the idea that farmers should all be much richer? My question is, who pays for it? Well, let's just say that theoretically, I say that every farmer should have at least 50,000 rupees a month. Who can disagree with that? But how do you pay for it?
Avik Saha, would you want to respond to that? Who pays for it?
Oh yes, certainly. You see, if the price of the farmer's produce as sold in the consumer's market is considered, and a very reasonable percentage of that is paid to the farmer will get 18,000 rupees a month. You do not regulate the chain properly, and the farmer is left to suffer. What basically is happening is the farmer is subsidizing the food cost for the entire nation. It comes to something like 2 lakh crores per annum. And this is the farmer you want to do charity to?
There is a much more fundamental
He's paying
problem.
you 2 lakh crores every year.
No,
and has been doing so for the last 10 years.
Much more fundamental. The problem is this. You have 50% of the population that is contributing 15% of GDP. The problem for India, and Panagaria had a very excellent piece on this in the Times of India last week, which I urge your viewers to watch. The problem is that India has, unlike the developed world, not been able to move people from the farm, where plots have been shrinking in size, to other occupations. So therefore, you're stuck with this issue where you have this very large number of people who are simply not productive, and these artificial ideas about how their incomes can be boosted. I certainly agree that you can if you can get market prices to them, all of these things would be helpful. But the fundamental problem in India is that there are far too many farmers contributing far too little to the economy. And what you need is some kind of movement to get a greater part of these people moved either into manufacturing or into services or into some other section where they can be more productive and where their incomes can be boosted.
Completely incorrect. Completely incorrect.
Permanently on 50% of the population contributing 15% of GDP. Obviously, they're going to be poor.
Mr. Saha wholeheartedly disagrees.
I would like to respond to that.
Yes, please. Yes, please. Mr. Saha and then Raman Malik and Aman Agarwal can come in. Yes, 30 seconds.
The European model of shifting from agriculture. Yeah, the whole European model of shifting from agriculture to industry was happening at the time of Industrial Revolution. India is not in the same situation. So please do not use an outdated model which is not working here. India is a farm-centric country and should remain so and has to remain so. There are no options. So please don't spew logic that does not work.
Okay, Aman Agarwal wanted to come in as well on what Mr. Dhume is saying. Which side of this debate do you stand, Mr. Agarwal?
No, I think it is the free market mechanism. If an agriculturist wants to remain an agriculturist, he has a right to remain so. If someone wants to go into industry, he has a right to remain so. And I think the framework, various governments in the past have provided that structure. And fortunately for India today, because of restrictions of the fundings, organic agriculture has boosted, and as a result it is one of the highest paying food products in the world today, which has largest markets worldwide, given the yields which the other fertilized agriculture has produced. And hence fortunately, so we can actually earn a lot of foreign exchange revenue and create food buffers for this country. The only problems are that we are not able to have proper storage facilities, proper pricing then being delivered to the farmer, which is creating a problem. However, the question which you asked about was a direct transfer of payment to, which has a lot of social ills to it. And there have been n number of studies in the last 20 years which have been talked about of the fact that if a direct cash transfer is done, would it be used for an appropriate usage or would it be used for a disappropriate usage? Secondly, whatever amount is given, please understand, we are looking at about 65 to 70% of population in an agriculture base. If out of that 65-70%, if 70% of the population is very weak in the agriculture framework, we are looking at a huge chunk of money to be dispersed out. So the question of raising that fund and to be distributed as freebies, how many years can you distribute it? And we are a developing country, we are not a very rich country. Even the United States, which is there, is not able to do so. And this is referred to, the UBI scheme internationally is referred to as a negative tax income scheme, because it has a negative impact on the productivity of a human being, irrespective of which class it is given to. I would love to get free income as well. Why would I not love freebies? Everybody loves freebies. But what will be the impact on me? I will become non-productive. I
may be in a minority here with this view, but I don't think that that kind of a study and that kind of an example works in our country, because we are not a developed country where we have the basic amenities any which ways. We are a country where lakhs of people are still dying of hunger, of poverty, where people who are producing the food for us are not even able to get any money back for themselves to eat food. So maybe the system, maybe the schemes have to work differently. Secondly, Mr. Agarwal, how much money are we already giving? Now, we may not be calling it freebies, but there are already 950 central sponsored schemes, many of which are big subsidies that the Indian citizen and the taxpayer is already paying for. So obviously no government is looking at fixing this system. Raman Malik, we are not looking at fixing the system. You've not done anything in 4 years of your government. Now in the last 6-8 months you started looking at it. So the easy way out for you and your government now is to announce a basic income for the farmers, like you did a 10% quota for the economically weaker when you're not even generating jobs.
Exactly.
So Tanvi, let me say on the onset that probably this statement of yours is as good a statement as Rahul Gandhi could make. I seriously feel offended by this, because if this government has not done anything for poor, none of the governments which were there could have done it. From day one, this government, from controlling the misuse of distribution in urea to implementing the recommendations of Swaminathan ji, to doing things which is good for the farmer, for the poor of India, this Prime Minister and his government has been totally dedicated to the poor, as well as the middle class, where it is doing away with the rationalization from a high level to low of GST is also a biggest thing which is totally forgotten. And the redundant money which was lying in coffers has been brought into the system back.
Okay.
People who had worked.
Now, this argument of yours may have worked in a war of words with Rahul Gandhi.
What else do you want?
But since I am Tanvi Shukla and I do look at facts, my question to you is, Mr. Malik, give me certain examples of what it is that you have done for farmers and give me statistics to back how it has helped the farmers. For example, should we look at suicide numbers? We can look at the suicide numbers. Should we look at the basic income that the farmers are making today? We can look at that. As of date today, should I tell you what the onion farmers are getting for their produce this very season? I can tell you that, which would have been different had you solved the problem.
Those things.
Yes.
I am doing farming myself, Tanvi. Tanvi, I am farmer myself also. I go and plow my fields. I know what is going on. These hands are of a farmer. I know what I am doing and I know what I am talking. Let me tell you certain facts. You know, when you become a farmer, you will understand that the problem is not about just the returns. Returns are an issue, but the social pressure is one of the biggest issue. When a car needs to be given to a girl's wedding, why? A child, if is marrying, does not require money or gifts which are going to set the standards. The education given to the child, the culture given to the child, the social etiquettes given to the child is the value.
But where are we going? Mr. Malik, where are we going with this? I asked you about the steps you have taken for the benefit of the poor. You are talking for some wedding and dowry system of North India right now. I don't know where I lost that track. I'm sorry, I'm completely out of time here.
No, that is there in South also. It's
not just North India. Why must your viewers suffer this?
It's not just North India.
I have no idea what is happening right now, but I'm completely out of time. I think this debate will continue as we go closer towards the budget. The sense that we are getting is that if the government is really going to announce something, it will be in the next 2 weeks, and largely either it will be for the poorest of the poor or just for the farm sector. Like we said, and we here at Mirana have been repeatedly highlighting the pain within the agri crisis. So 10% jobs quota for the economically weaker section and rest of India, and maybe another similar big bonanza scheme as the government may see it for the farm sector. But just think about this concept, because the concept comes about every now and then. A universal basic income, a little bit of money that everybody gets every month, and then you do away with all these subsidies. That's how I see it. No other freebies from the government, no other subsidies, no other cheaper products, cheaper schemes, insurance, gas, fuel, whatever. Everything else at normal price. The money is given to you, you decide how and where you want to spend it. Think about it, just as a concept, may not be realistically possible in current political scenario, but still, there is no stopping us from just debating it and discussing it. Thank you to all of our panelists for joining us on this debate. Thank you for joining us on The Last Word.